Life a million years ago was not a chapter of triumph waiting to unfold. It was a prolonged struggle against a world that offered no protection and no mercy. The Earth of that time was vast, unpredictable, and indifferent to existence itself. Landscapes shifted without warning, climates changed without apology. Survival was not promised to anyone, and extinction was not exceptional. It was normal. For prehistoric people, life did not feel like progress. It felt like endurance stretched across generations that rarely lived long enough to see stability. The land they walked was familiar in shape, yet hostile in nature. Open grasslands exposed them to predators. Dense forests concealed threats they could not see until it was too late. Rivers provided water, but also danger, swelling suddenly, drowning the careless, and separating families forever. Every environment carried risk, and there was no refuge from uncertainty. The human ancestors of this era lived under constant pressure. Hunger dictated movement, fear dictated behavior, loss dictated memory. Food was never guaranteed, water could vanish with the season. A single failed hunt could push a group toward starvation. Multiple failures meant death. Survival depended not only on strength or intelligence, but on timing, cooperation, and luck. Many had the first two, few had the third. Children were born into a world already stacked against them. Infant mortality was extreme. Many did not survive their first year. Those who did faced illness, malnutrition, and injury long before adulthood. Parents learned early that attachment came with pain. Love existed, but it was shaped by repetition of loss. To raise a child was to accept that survival was uncertain, regardless of effort or care. Prehistoric mothers carried the heaviest burden. Pregnancy weakened the body in a world that demanded constant movement. Childbirth was dangerous, often fatal. Without medical knowledge, complications ended lives quickly and silently. A mother's death endangered her children and destabilized the group. Each loss echoed outward, altering survival chances for everyone connected to it. Predators dominated the ecosystems of this world. Humans were not hunters by dominance, but by necessity. Saber-toothed cats, giant hyenas, ancient lions, and massive reptiles did not fear humans. They hunted them. A lone individual was an opportunity. Even groups were vulnerable if caught unprepared. These predators were not villains. They were products of the same evolutionary pressure, refined for killing in ways humans were not. Injuries were often fatal, even when they seemed minor. A twisted ankle could slow movement and separate someone from the group. A cut could become infected. Broken bones sometimes healed, but healing required time, food, and protection that were rarely available. Skeletal remains show signs of trauma survived briefly, suggesting individuals who endured pain until the body failed completely. Fire, when it appeared, was transformative, but it was not universal. Some groups mastered it, others never did. Fire offered warmth, protection from predators, and the ability to cook food, increasing caloric intake and reducing disease. Groups without fire were exposed to cold, darkness, and constant threat. The difference between survival and extinction came down to knowledge passed down orally and imperfectly. Knowledge itself was fragile. There were no records, no storage beyond memory. When an elder died, generations of experience vanished. Hunting routes, seasonal patterns, plant knowledge, and survival strategies disappeared instantly. Progress reset repeatedly. Advancement was slow not because early humans lacked intelligence, but because loss erased gains faster than they could accumulate. Climate instability shaped nearly every loss experienced by prehistoric people. 1 million years ago, Earth moved through dramatic climatic oscillations. Glacial advances cooled regions rapidly. Interglacial warming altered ecosystems just as abruptly. Rainfall patterns shifted, turning grasslands into deserts and forests into open plains. Animals migrated or died. Humans followed when they could. When they could not, they disappeared. Migration itself was dangerous. Moving into unfamiliar territory exposed groups to new predators, unknown diseases, and competition with other human populations. Encounters between groups were unpredictable. Sometimes they resulted in cooperation or exchange. Sometimes they ended in violence. In a world defined by scarcity, strangers represented risk. Violence among humans was not constant, but it was present. Competition over territory, food sources, and mates occasionally escalated into deadly conflict. There were no laws, no mediation, only immediate consequence. Injuries sustained in conflict often proved fatal later through infection or inability to keep up with the group. Social bonds were essential for survival. Humans relied on cooperation to hunt, defend against predators, care for young, and share food. Yet these bonds were fragile. Scarcity strained relationships. Fear bred mistrust. Exile, whether forced or chosen, was often a death sentence. Solitary survival was rare and temporary. The emotional world of prehistoric people was complex. They experienced fear, attachment, grief, and relief. The loss of a group member was deeply felt, but mourning could not last. Survival demanded movement and focus. Bodies were sometimes left behind because stopping meant risking everyone else. Grief became internal, unspoken, carried forward rather than expressed. The landscape itself was shaped by loss. Bones scattered across plains and forests marked places where lives ended. There were no graves, no ceremonies preserved in the archaeological record for most deaths. The earth absorbed these lives without record. Entire populations vanished without leaving more than fragments. The human family tree was once vast and branching. Many species existed simultaneously. Homo erectus, Homo habilis, Homo heidelbergensis, and others shared the planet at different times and places. Most did not survive. Their extinction was not dramatic. It was gradual, quiet, and final. Modern humans are the descendants of survivors, not the representatives of inevitability. Evolution favored adaptability over strength. Those who could adjust behavior, diet, and social structure survived longer. Intelligence evolved not as an abstract trait, but as a response to repeated failure. Every mistake carried lethal potential. Learning quickly became essential. Disease moved invisibly through prehistoric populations. Parasites, bacteria, and viruses spread easily among closely living groups. Without understanding cause or prevention, illness was seen as random fate. A strong individual could weaken rapidly. Death often followed without warning. The body records these struggles. Skeletal remains show repeated stress, malnutrition, and injury. Teeth reveal interrupted growth from starvation. Healed fractures show survival against odds, while unhealed injuries show how quickly life could end. These remains tell a story of endurance under relentless pressure. Time felt different in this world. Without calendars or long-term planning, life was measured in seasons and survival cycles. Memory focused on recent experience because distant memory offered little utility. The future was not imagined far ahead. Survival was immediate. Despite overwhelming loss, humanity endured. Groups adapted hunting strategies, refined tools, strengthened cooperation, and improved communication. Language likely developed not for storytelling, but for coordination and warning. Every improvement increased survival slightly, never guaranteeing it. The cost of these improvements was immense. For every trait preserved, countless lives were lost. Progress emerged from repetition, not design. Success was accidental, survival was selective. Life a million years ago was not a story of dominance. Humans were not rulers of their environment. They were participants in a system that removed weakness without intention or cruelty. Nature did not favor humanity. Humanity survived despite nature. Modern society often imagines prehistoric life as a prelude to greatness. In reality, it was a prolonged test that most failed. The humans who survived did not know they were building a future. They were responding to hunger, fear, and loss, one moment at a time. Every modern certainty rests on forgotten lives. Every comfort exists because prehistoric people endured uncertainty daily. Their suffering was not symbolic, it was real, physical, and constant. Life a million years ago demanded sacrifice without explanation. It shaped intelligence, cooperation, and resilience through pressure alone. The human story did not begin with victory, it began with endurance. This is not a tale of glory, it is a remembrance of those who lived without record, without assurance, and without relief. Survival was written in loss, and humanity exists today because some endured long enough for the story to continue.